in sticking with our themes of discussing various non-physical entities, aliens and spirit people, right? You also have a set of spirit friends that you probably don't even know about, okay? Now, the spirit friends break into three main groups, and I'll talk about that. But before we get into this, I want to reiterate that when we're interacting with spirit persons who are earthbound or aliens, chances are they are not in a tremendously loving state, okay? They may have more love than you, and they may know more about the laws about this place than you do, but that doesn't mean that they are as loving as they could be. And that does not mean that they don't have their own motivations and intentions for interacting with you, okay? I didn't really talk much about this in the alien video, but one thing that alien species or groups have done is reveal certain physical truths to humans, oftentimes in order to make weaponry, okay? So if you can imagine that the truth is that all new technology is first a weapon before it trickles down into the public use, okay? Now, humans are partly at fault for that, but there are also groups of aliens that know more about advanced technology, and they have shared that technology with different governments on this planet, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that for now, okay? For now, I would like to talk about our allies, our spiritual friends, those who are totally loving and understand love as the Creator views love, and those people that want to help us in our own spiritual development, okay? There's three main groups here, okay? I'll go through them and then we'll circle back. First is your guide. You have a spirit guide, believe it or not, okay? They're with you all the time. You also have a guardian, okay? And then there are celestial beings that you also have potential access to. Now, what do I mean when I say celestial beings? If you go back to a previous video where we talk about the spirit world, a celestial being is any being that lives in the 7th dimension or higher, which essentially is no longer considered a human, but considered like a totally different entity that has evolved from receiving God's love, okay? Celestial beings don't need spaceships to get around. Celestial beings don't have weapons. They don't need them, okay? So, if you're in a situation where you're interacting with an alien that's got weaponry, understand that they still have violence and fear in their hearts, that they even think that they need technology or weaponry. The celestial beings do not need technology or weaponry because they are the technology. And there is no weaponry because they are eternal. We haven't talked a whole lot about this, but the key to eternal life is receiving God's love. And because there are so many humans, entities, that do not know the principles of how to receive God's love or just reject God altogether, they are not necessarily eternal, okay? Receiving God's love actually transforms us into a more evolved creature. All right, spirit guide. Your spirit guide is assigned to you temporarily while in the physical world to aid you as you pursue your passions and desires. Okay? So, let's go through this again. Assigned to you. Well, assigned either via the law of attraction or at God's request. Okay? And you will not know which one that is. Okay? And it doesn't really matter. Temporarily. Okay? our spirit guides can change over time. Okay? Why do they change? Well, they change based upon your passions and desires. Okay? So like, I know in my life I've had several spirit guides because maybe in one part of my life I'm focusing in on one aspect or type of passion that I'm following, and there will be a guide in my life that knows about that thing and can help me learn more about that thing and can guide me towards meeting people that will also know about that thing. You see how it goes? Okay? So the spirit guide aids in our personal development based upon what our particular interests are. Okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier in the alien video, like I have had a Pleiadian spirit guide at one point. Okay? I had the Pleiadian spirit guide when I was pursuing shamanism. And part of the reason why I attracted a Pleiadian spirit guide is because I didn't believe in God. I wanted to learn truths about this place, and I knew that my body was way more powerful than anyone is saying. Okay? Like I started learning about sun gazing and fasting and all this kind of stuff. And I'll talk more about those things in other videos. But the notion that like a person has everything they need within inside of themselves to be complete is part of the reason why I had a Pleiadian spirit guide. Okay? I believed at that point that God was an energy system and that, you know, I wanted to participate in essentially the battle that was going on here. Okay, so my state of mind was different back then, and my spirit guide reflected that state of mind. Okay, when I started learning, when I learned that God was real, and that God is a real being that is totally separate from this place, rather than just like this nebulous, you know, energy system, I shifted my course and made my passions and desires about growing in love and developing a relationship with this creator being. Okay, so now my spirit guide is a celestial being, but I only have that guide because I'm making growing in love, living in truth, and attempting to be humble all the time, to accept and own my own emotions. That is the number one thing that I am attempting to do in my life. So if that's the case, then, you know, I get a celestial guide. Now, what's the difference between having a celestial guide and having a Pleiadian guide, like practically speaking? Well, the celestial guide is much more quiet and much more calm and subtle. The celestial guide does not get upset. The celestial guide does not force their views onto me. The celestial guide doesn't even attempt to talk to me unless I engage them. Okay? So that is honoring free will. Whereas my Pleiadian spirit guide would often say things to me when I did not want to hear him. Okay? If I do not want to hear my celestial spirit guide, he won't talk to me. Guardian. Our guardian is assigned to you to look out for your physical well-being. Okay? And to the best of my knowledge, we have one guardian for our entire life. And, you know, how does the guardian operate in your life? Okay? Well, like, you know, I like to ride my bike a lot. I like to ride my bike to the beach. And sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and, or whatever, I'm planning my trip to the beach, and I'll just find myself sitting in my chair, not doing anything. I still want to go to the beach, yet in this moment, I just feel like sitting. That is your guardian telling me, just chill for a minute, just be patient. Because you don't know what danger you're actually avoiding, right? Like maybe if I leave my house 5 minutes earlier, I get hit by a car. Okay? It's that kind of action that the guardian is responsible for, okay? So, you know, listen to yourself. Listen to how you feel. If you feel like you shouldn't be moving, or you shouldn't be going this way, or, even though you drive down the same way to work hundreds of times, but you just feel, you know what, I want to turn right here and take a different way. Go ahead and do that, because if you feel that way, that is probably your guardian attempting to send you a message. Now, I've spoken earlier about if you communicate with the Creator, she does not speak English. Your guide will speak English, if that's your language, okay? Your guide and guardian have the ability to communicate with you in the language that you understand. So that is a major difference and a way to differentiate, am I speaking to my guide, or am I receiving a feeling from God? Okay? How about other celestials? Well, my understanding is that there are literally millions of celestial beings. And again, celestial beings are beings that live in the so-called heavenly realms. They have no error inside of them at all. They are one with God. And they are pursuing their own relationship with the Creator, and they're at various stages, We talked about there being 7 dimensions and up. Who knows? I mean, it can keep on going and going and going, right? As a person grows in love and they reach new levels of understanding about the Creator's view of love, they actually create new dimensional spaces. And then as new beings are able to join in those spaces, their soul will populate those dimensions to take on the flavor of all the beings that reside in that particular dimension. Okay? So there's like tons of these beings out there that have the ability to help us, but like maybe we just don't know their names, or we don't know that they're out there, or whatever. But like, many of them are more than willing to interact with you and to provide some truth. Okay? So they may answer your request to interact with you and reveal truth. So I'll give an example. The being known as Gandhi is a celestial spirit at this time. Okay? I'm very interested in Gandhi, especially Gandhi's work on this planet. I have a great deal of love for that being. And I attempted to communicate with Gandhi in the spirit world. By the way, he does not go by Gandhi now, because Gandhi is a human name. But for the purposes of this video, I'm interacting with Gandhi. Okay? Now, I can't go to visit where Gandhi is, because Gandhi's he's in a way higher condition of love than I am. But I can put out the request, like, hey, I would like to interact with you or ask you some questions about your life, or or whatever else. And Gandhi has the free will to either respond or not respond. Okay. In this particular case, he responded to me, and we had an interaction in the spirit world. Now, I didn't remember. I remember what he looked like. It was like he was a gigantic, undulating being, full of color, where like his different aspects were like moving around, and like the colors were swirling, and he was gigantic. And totally loving, like not scary at all. It was really an excellent experience. But the next morning, I wake up and I just got Gandhi on my mind, right? So it's like, wow, I wake up from sleep and I'm like, Gandhi, 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 okay? Now, I'm not remembering my dreams at this point, and I still don't remember a lot of them, and we'll talk about why that is in a future video. But, I wake up and I've got this feeling, Gandhi, 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 okay? So I go on YouTube and I pull up a documentary about Gandhi. Now, I had already known quite a bit about Gandhi's life, but I did not know how he died. So I watched the documentary, and then they get to the end, and they talk about how he died. He was assassinated by other Hindu men because when the British left what was known as British India, what was known as British India, it was broken up into India and Pakistan. But actually Pakistan was East Pakistan, and East Pakistan is now Bangladesh, okay? But, you know, there are Hindu and Muslim people, you know, mixed around in these regions. There's no, like, defined, like, you know, this line is India and this line is Pakistan, you know? Plus, you know, up in the Kashmir region, it's all mountains and stuff, so it's like, you know, like a fruitless human endeavor to attempt to draw political lines. Anyway, they came to Gandhi leading the Indian faction of the British Indian partition, and there was an Islamic guy, a leader, I forget his name, but he was leading the Pakistani part of the leading of the British partition, and they were discussing, and they had come to terms on how to break up the financial resources of British India into India and Pakistan, right? So they had come to an agreement that India was going to ship a bunch of gold or whatever to Pakistan, and that was going to be like the final, like, okay, now we're two separate countries, okay? Well, the Indian government refused to follow through with the with the agreement of sharing of resources, okay? And because of this, all kinds of conflict broke out on the Pakistani and Indian borders, okay? Now, Gandhi saw this and decided that he personally was going to make sure that the Indian government came through and followed through and, honored their agreement, okay? Well, it was because of this, because Gandhi wanted to honor his agreement with the government and people of Pakistan, that it so enraged many Hindu people, that 8 Hindu people, I don't know why I'm holding up 3, but 8 Hindu people got together and assassinated him, okay? Now, when I saw this in the documentary, I realized that was the reason why I talked to Gandhi. Because he told me that in his quest for peace and love in this place, that it was actually a person just like him who killed him. Okay? And it's kind of interesting too, because with Yeshua it's the same, right? Like, Yeshua is a Jewish man assassinated by his own people, okay? By trying to do the most loving set of actions. And I found that to be quite interesting, right? So that's an example of how we have the ability to communicate and learn truths from celestial beings, okay? But that being said, I would encourage you to engage your spirit guide. Your spirit guide's there for a reason. And, you know, your spirit guide will speak English. Like, he's an actual, or she is an actual spirit friend. Your guardian will talk to you too, but your guide really knows more about what you are attempting to pursue. Okay? So, if you try to not make judgments about any of this stuff, and just experiment with it, okay? You can talk to your guide in your head. They will answer you. You don't have to say it out loud, but you can also talk it out loud too, okay? So, again, I encourage you to experiment with this, and if you're able to connect with your guide, then you know for certain that you have a being that is in a more loving condition than you are, that will guide you. Now, if you are full of error yourself, and you're hearing a bunch of voices shouting at you, okay, those are spirit persons in low conditions, in dark conditions, okay? And you may have to clean yourself up, so to speak, by feeling out your emotions to be able to hear the quieter voice, okay? Remember, your guide never yells at you, okay? So, good luck, love and peace.